Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for full moon in Taurus. And this full moon is happening on the 5th of November. And this full moon is happening at 13 degrees of Taurus, and it's not making any aspects with other planets besides making an opposition with the sun in Scorpio at 13 degrees, because this is what full moons are. Not also, full moon is an event when the sun and the moon are looking at each other. They are in opposition, and they are revealing their intentions to each other. They can see each other. So this is, full moons are times when we have an opportunity to acknowledge something that we've been avoiding, to recognize something, to admit something that we've been running away from, that we've been delaying, that we've been suppressing, ignoring, or anything that was unable to be expressed, to be exposed, to be seen before, now comes to light and comes to life. And this full moon in Taurus is asking each of us to slow down and remember what it means to be alive, because Taurus is about fertility. It's about giving birth to something. It's earth sign, and it's the first earth sign in the zodiac. So it's very important for flourishing and sprouting and seeing how things come to life. And full moons do bring things to a fruition. So something we've been working on, something we've been building, is about to come to life. But full moons also bring endings and completions. But this can mean an end of a certain project, an end of a certain phase in life, an end, completion of something that is going to give us a new breath, new beginning, new taste of life. And the sun in Scorpio pulls us into mystery, into change, into transforming wisdom of death and rebirth. And the next lunation will be new moon in Scorpio. That one will be intense. This one is also intense because the ruler of this full moon is Venus, and Venus is in her own sign, Libra, and she's squaring Pluto in Aquarius and Jupiter in Cancer. So she's making two squares, the ruler of this full moon. And also at the same time of this full moon, we have an opposition between Mars and Uranus, and they are both at 0 degrees of mutable signs. Uranus is 0 degrees of Gemini, while Mars is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, and they are opposing each other. So yes, it is intense, but the full moon itself is not making any challenging aspects, and it's only opposing the sun. But of course, this is not only, it's a big thing, because the moon in Taurus roots us in life and into that pulse that keeps beating no matter what we lose. Scorpio is about loss and regeneration and rebirth, while Taurus is really about grounding and stability and sustainability and maintenance. And it's about life and simplicity, while Scorpio is about death and complexity. And together, they both create wholeness. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's not about choosing sides, and I'm going to talk more about these aspects later, and more about not choosing sides, because Taurus is the bull, and it can be the archetype of the raging bull, or the archetype of the Ferdinand bull, who stops and smells the flowers, or the raging bull who just smashes everything in front of it. So it's not about choosing sides, it's about realizing that we can be both. We can be the raging bull and the Ferdinand bull. We can be both, and we shouldn't judge ourselves or others when they are the raging bull or the Ferdinand bull. We just have to really build the ability to rise above those narrow-minded perspectives and see the bigger picture. And this square between Venus and Jupiter in Cancer is really giving us that wide perspective through something emotionally challenging, and maybe even something related to our childhood, our family, our home situation, because Jupiter is in Cancer. And it can also come through challenge within a love relationship, because Venus is squaring Jupiter, and Venus is about love relationships and love. And she's also squaring Pluto, so this can really bring some secrets to the surface that are putting pressure on us, and that are making us transform our way of being in a relationship and our way of understanding each other and ourselves, of course. And Scorpio is about the descent. It's the composting. It's about the letting go. And Taurus is the soil. And it's the fertile body that receives what falls away, and it turns it into new growth, because Taurus is about growth and building. And this full moon is a reminder that every seed begins in the darkness. Every life begins in the darkness. We bury it, and from that invisible surrender, something living grows, something living rises. And this lunation reminds us that endings and beginnings are never, never separate. They are two halves of the same entity, of the same breath. And Taurus rules the throat chakra. This is, the voice. And we all have unique voices, just like our fingerprints. Voice is very important. And Scorpio rules the root chakra. And this is the base where fears and desires are stored. And we can express what is stored in the root chakra through our voice. And as I always say when I talk about Taurus-Scorpio axis, because it's very, very complex axis, and it belongs to the fixed cross, and it's about the matter and energy, and I will also talk about that later. And between this throat chakra and root chakra, we have the spine, the Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder. And this is the mystical bridge that carries life force upward. And when the moon is full in Taurus, we are invited to align that inner pillar, that column, and to root into what is real while speaking our truth with calm strength. Calm strength is Taurus. And the second house, it is, this is really a holy journey of bringing spirit into the body and body up to the spirit, until the two meet in that stillness, in that still moment. And of course, even if this sounds like something that is totally abstract and far away from us, it's something that is living within us, and that is always possible for achievement. And it's not some fairy tale story or some poetic metaphorical story of what these energies represent. It's a real thing, and it's important for us to know how this works. And Taurus teaches embodiment, but it also teaches us pace. And as I said, the bull gazing in sunlight, with the bull who is steady, patient, sensual, and yet within the same archetype lives the raging bull, that is, that can be easily provoked or pushed beyond its limits. And this full moon illuminates both faces of that energy. And so it's also something that will show us how many of us have forgotten how to rest, and how we usually mistake exhaustion for productivity, and tension for something that is serious and important. And this Taurus is here to show us that, resting and relaxing is not laziness. It's maintenance of life. It's necessary. And when we forget to rest, we forget to feel. And when we forget to feel, we forget why we are doing all of this. And under this full moon, we have to notice where our bodies are asking us for peace, and to notice how much we multitask without breathing, without moments between those tasks to stop and see where we are in all of that, where we are in all of that chaos, and we are somehow addicted to multitasking. It's like we cannot rest. I very often talk about this because this is really taking its toll, and I see it more and more in my life and in life of those around me. And it's very hard for us to just relax and rest, because there is always something going on, and our body is intense. Our body cannot relax, not even while we are sleeping. When we can wake up exhausted as well. And it's time to see how we usually reach out for stimulation instead of nourishment. This is also a big thing to recognize and to be aware of. And the light of Taurus shows us that true power doesn't rush. It builds slowly, steadily, step by step. It's that slow, devoted energy that can really grow mountains. And the task now is to come back to the rhythm of nature, to that steady rhythm of inhale and exhale that I talked about in previous video, to that moment where we can really see the shift between the night and day, the life and the death, and to trust that these cycles are also within us, to know that these cycles are always happening within us as well. The shift of the night and day, of death and life, we experience that on so many levels during the day. And it's not like some big event that will happen at the end of our life. It's something that we are experiencing continuously, but we miss to recognize it. We miss life in the same way as we miss death. We miss to experience it, and this full moon is here to give us that experience, to bring it to life through our own breath, through our own senses, through our five senses. This is Taurus, our five senses. And let's let this full moon be a time to listen, to eat slowly. Taurus in the second house really strongly related to our food, to how we eat, to our resources, and also to our voice. So let's, eat slowly, speak gently, and honor what we have already achieved, honor what we have already grown. And, let's also remember that every act, every creation, every transformation begins with the same act: a seed placed in the dark. And with putting that seed in the darkness, we have to trust that light will return. Light will definitely reach that place, that seed in the darkness, and this is what will give that seed new life, that will come through the soil, that will start reaching the sky. And this is a tension that really wants to reshape our values from the inside out, because Taurus in the second house is also strongly related to our values, our concept of values, our priorities, our sense of worth. And this square with Pluto between Venus, the ruler of this full moon, and Pluto in Aquarius is showing us that Pluto's intensity is the medicine. It's not something to run away from. It's not something to be afraid of. It's the medicine. And it doesn't take away what is real. Never. Pluto never takes away what is real. Pluto burns away what isn't real. So with this knowledge, we should walk through these lunations now. And this is the energy of emotional detox. Pluto is about detox, and Venus and Pluto in square is really about emotional regeneration too, and about how we feel in front of others, because Pluto is in Aquarius. Aquarius is the group of people. It's the power of people. And Venus in Libra is also about how we experience beauty, how we recognize values and beauty within ourselves and within others. And this can come in some kind of clash, and we may feel this conflict within ourselves. So it's really powerful time for emotional detox, and to experience that composting side of Scorpio's wisdom through the sun in Scorpio, and through that opposition between this full moon and the sun. And when we surrender what is false, this is when we can really allow love to grow deeper and to be more alive. Venus squaring Jupiter can expand this lesson, and it can also exaggerate our feelings, of course, the pleasure, the indulgence, the generosity, and also clarity. And this square also reminds us that more isn't always abundance. Sometimes the most abundant thing we can do is simplify and choose what truly nourishes, not what stimulates us, and to say no to what distracts us. And this is what true abundance can also be now. Taurus always brings us back to that question: what truly sustains me? What is really meaningful? What is really valuable? What is the most valuable thing in my life right now? And this is not about material possessions alone. It's about what fills the soul, what keeps the body calm and the heart open. And it's a reminder also that earth and water together give life, even though together earth and water can also give mud. And earth is Taurus while water is Scorpio. But earth carries water. The body, which is earth and Taurus, carries emotions, which is related to water and Scorpio. And the soil, in the same way, the soil absorbs the rain. And this is where electricity comes into the game, and it gives new life, so that seeds that are under the soil can drink, and roots can grow. In that case, flowers can bloom. So the soil absorbs the rain, and this is what is happening with us now as well. And without earth, water would flood and vanish, and without water, earth would harden and crack. So together they need to collaborate. Together they form the chemistry of life. This is, containment and flow. Structure of Taurus and surrender of Scorpio. Matter and energy. Body and soul. And, this is the hidden alchemy behind this full moon. It teaches us that matter can turn into energy when it is nourished, when it is loved, when what we touch, eat, or speak becomes infused with intention, with conscious intention. And energy can become matter when we can really anchor our dreams into form, when an idea becomes an act of art, when a word becomes a prayer, but not a prayer where we are praying for more or asking for more, but a prayer that is more like gratitude, prayer that is affirmation of life. And this is when a feeling can become an act of love. And this is, that sacred creation between Taurus and Scorpio. The invisible and the visible are not separate. And it's also a reminder that our body is not opposite to the spirit, as some are teaching us, as some teachings from the age of Pisces that we are still in is teaching us, that some religious strict forms are teaching us that, spirit, that body is dirty, that body is evil, that body and desires and all those stuff, we need to suppress them. This is what created the mess, schizophrenia in this world. This is what created mental and emotional split within us. This is why we have the responsibility now to come back through true knowledge to who we truly are. So body is not the opposite of the spirit. It is spirit expressed through matter, and heart is a sacred vessel. You know, every breath is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. Every word that we speak, every meal that we prepare, and every act of presence is really holy. And there is a whole chapter about this in the book The Age of Aquarius that you can find on Moon Omens website, where it is really correct, the whole thing about matter, energy, time, and space, about those four elements and four sides of this realm, and about the archetypes and the zodiac and the secret of numbers and what it all actually means. So I highly recommend going there and exploring those things. It's really an adventure. And this is, the secret of Taurus and Scorpio. It's the mystery of incarnation. And we are here to remember that enlightenment doesn't happen when we are away from the world, when we run away from the world, when we isolate ourselves. No, this is not when the enlightenment happens. But it's exactly through the world. It's exactly through this body. We need this body to experience the awakening and the enlightenment. And as I always say, this is not one-time thing. It's something that is happening continuously, because we as human beings are eternal, and we are continuously getting to know ourselves, and we are experiencing this enlightenment through the world, through our senses, through our bodies, through our voice, through our ability to communicate, to connect, to rest and heal. And Taurus represents everything that sustains us: our resources, our money, our skills, our values, and our self-worth. So Taurus asks, what do we value? And do we live according to those values? It's really important to see, are we living in alignment with those values and priorities that we have, or that we think that are our priorities, or are we just living in an illusion? And this is not just about finances, it's about energy exchange. And every time we spend, whether it's money or time or energy or attention, we cast a vote for what we believe we are worth and what we believe truly matters. So if we spend unconsciously chasing comfort that never quite satisfies, we end up really losing ourselves. But when we invest in what nourishes the soul, every cent, every dollar, every breath, every moment becomes currency that is sacred. So it's really important how we spend our resources, our money, our time, our energy. Do we do it out of fear or unconsciously, or we spend it for those things that really nourish us? And when we earn or spend from fear, this is something that creates scarcity. When we earn or spend from trust and alignment, this is what really circulates abundance. And under this full moon, many of us will feel prompted to reevaluate our relationship with money and possessions. And, not from guilt, but from awareness. And to ask ourselves, do we use our resources to express love or to fill in emptiness? Or does the way I handle money honor my values or my fears? And this is really important now, really important. And Taurus teaches us that true wealth is not stored in some bank account. True wealth is stored in our nervous system, and peace is the real currency. when we know our worth, we naturally attract people, opportunities, and abundance that match that vibration. And this full moon's light may bring clarity around where we've been giving too much, where we've been charging too little, or settling for less. And it asks us for a subtle but powerful shift. And, to begin treating our own time and energy as sacred resource as it is. And it's also important to know that peace, and when I said that peace is a real currency, peace doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean being passive. And I'll mention this later again. So, as Venus, the ruler of this full moon, is facing Pluto's depth and profoundness and Jupiter's expansion, we are learning to purify our relationship with material life, to make it conscious, to make it more conscious, and to spend, to create, and receive from a place of true alignment. And Taurus in the second house teaches us that value begins in the body. And when we are grounded, when our breath is steady, when we are present enough to taste our tea and to feel the sunlight on our face, we remember that we already have everything we need. And from that state, true abundance flows. This is what we need to bring ourselves into that state of being. And it's really possible now. And this full moon is giving us an opportunity to step into that state of being. And we are revealing this eternal dance between matter and energy, between form and essence, between the security and surrender. And, this is not a gentle full moon, to be honest, but it's honest full moon. And it calls us to remember that sacred temple within ourselves, that our body is the temple, and that we have to take care of this body, and that the eternal is also within the physical, and that the divine pulse is also within what we call an ordinary life. We don't need some extraordinary experiences. We don't need some exotic travels. We don't need some, big spectacular events in life in order to experience the divine. This is not what divine is about. It's very simple. It's the divine simplicity. And this full moon in Taurus is a big reminder of that. The wisdom of the body and the light of stillness. And, the sun and the moon standing face to face, each illuminating what the other cannot see alone. And this is what relationships are teaching us as well. When we are standing across the other person, we can see, we can illuminate what the other cannot see alone. So it's very important for relationships, because this square between Venus and Pluto, Venus and Jupiter, will really bring tension into our relationships for sure, especially into our one-on-one relationships, because Venus is in Libra, and Libra is about one-on-one relationships. So the sun in Scorpio looks deeply into the hidden chambers of who we are, while the moon in Taurus roots us into the tangible world, the body and the senses and the earth. And when these two archetypes meet, they ask us, can we hold our depth and still stay gentle and soft? Can we be that deep and intense, and at the same time to remain gentle and soft? And this moon really awakens the mystery of possession and release. And as I usually say, there is no release without the pressure. We need this pressure in order to feel the release. And this is what Taurus Scorpio teaches us. And it's pleasure and transformation, form and formlessness. So this moon in Taurus seeks serenity and comfort and the being in the present moment. It's the archetype of the gardener, the gardener being in the garden And this is why it's very, very beautiful and very healing if we can be in the garden, if we can plant some seeds, if we can spend more time with plants, in nature, with the soil, working with the soil, touching the soil with our hands. This is what is very, very healing. And it's also the Taurus archetype is also the sensualist, the builder, the preserver of beauty. And the language of Taurus is touch. Touch is very important. And there is a great healing that is happening through touch. And we can touch simple things. We can touch our clothes and just feel it. Just focus on that feeling between our fingertips and materials that we are touching. This is also very healing. And we can touch plants. We can touch surfaces of things. It's very, very powerful. And also through taste. Taste and touch. These things are very, very important for comfort, for feeling safe and secure. This is Taurus. We need some security system. We need to feel safe, to feel nurtured and nourished, to feel taken care of. And this is what we give to ourselves, because second house is about self-sufficiency, about being able to provide all that we need to ourselves. That sense of stability and security, we need to give it to ourselves. And we can do it now through touch, through taste, through stillness, and through the voice. And, but the sun in Scorpio steers the opposite current. And, it says nothing lasts unless it transforms. So the change is the only constant. This is what Scorpio is teaching us. And it is the alchemist, the seeker of soul's truth beneath the surface. And, this is when the garden is stripped bare so that new life can be born. And this full moon is really shining its light to show us what we've been growing in the darkness. So things that we've been growing in the darkness, things that have been happening behind the scenes are now coming to life. And this 13th degree of Taurus really, really holds the great power of the magic of Venus. And it can also be related to the tarot card Empress, the nature's abundance and the fertile power of embodiment. But it's not passive. This is not passive energy. It's really an awakened one. And this is Empress that is aware of her cycles and aware that all beauty has its death and rebirth. And we can see this in nature. Things change in nature, and in every season things die and they get reborn again. So the same is happening with us, and we can regenerate, and then any moment we are being renewed. So also very important thing that I recently shared with people around me, with my friends, that birthday, when we are celebrating our birthdays, and we shouldn't see it as something that is making us older, but something that is actually refreshing us, renewing us, regenerating us, actually making us younger. And if we can really bring that perspective to life, we will definitely grow younger, but more mature, not older, but growing mature, but regenerating and refreshing ourselves and our bodies and everything. And this is not some magic, this is real thing. But the practice is needed. Taurus is also about being practical, doing the work that is needed to be done. And these squares between Venus and Pluto and Venus and Jupiter, they form a triangle of expansion of heart that is happening through the necessary tension. This is the necessary tension, and it can bring us into confrontation with our desires, with shadows in love relationships, with shadows in family relationships, and with lack of self-worth. And we are learning the difference between the pleasure and peace, between indulgence and nourishment. But we are also learning what true pleasure is about. Not temporary pleasure, but pleasure that sustains us. And there's that saying that the treasure is in the pleasure, and it really is. But we should know that this pleasure is about being in the state of pure joy, not in chasing those stimulating things that give us 10 seconds pleasures or 1 hour pleasure. It doesn't matter, but that kind of pleasure is not something that sustains us. It's something that makes us addicted and not healthy, not self-sufficient. So these squares also are reminders that love is not possession, and Scorpio can be possessive and obsessive. And Venus in Libra now, as the ruler of this full moon, is really teaching us that love is not a possession, and beauty is not perfection either. Beauty is not perfection, and true value is found where we can really love ourselves wherever we are. Love ourselves even when we are in a very bad place with ourselves. This is when we start growing. We cannot start growing if we first don't give some love to that which needs to grow. So this, this lunation is showing us that material realm is as sacred as the spiritual realm. They are not separate. And when approached with devotion, things magically transform. And this full moon is also here to let us know that every touch, every taste, every breath, every meal that we take to eat, it can be a ritual. Body is not an obstacle to enlightenment. It is actually the portal to our selves. Our body is the portal to our true selves. And when I say this, when I say enlightenment, something feels off somehow. I don't know why, but I guess because the goal is not truly an enlightenment. The goal is to feel life, to feel real, to be real, to feel the touch, to be present, to tell ourselves, to tell myself, I am here, I'm breathing, I'm experiencing this life, and I'm learning, and I'm growing. And at any moment, things can change. Everything can change in a blink of an eye. And I'm grateful for what I have right here and right now. And with this approach and attitude, every moment is sacred, as it is, as it really is, but we take it for granted. We take so many things for granted. And this isn't like a critic. This is just a reminder for us to really start noticing things, to start noticing ourselves, to start feeling ourselves and our bodies. And we rarely feel gratitude towards our bodies, because there is always something like people are struggling with weight, people are struggling with many things, but when we, for example, break something, to break a finger or a hand or a leg, then we really start seeing how important, how grateful we should be when our body is functional, when we are not in physical pain, for example. So the question is, are we abusing our bodies? Are we using our body constructively or destructively? And this Taurus energy in those esoteric and occult teachings, the fixed earth sign embodies the alchemical principle that says solve et coagula, I think, if I'm not wrong. It means to dissolve, which is Scorpio, and to solidify, which is Taurus. And this is where the alchemist within us learns that gold is not only the goal. It's the state of consciousness that sees everything as divine. Everything. Every little thing that we experience is divine. There is divine spark in everything. In the flower that we see, in the table that we sit at, in the eyes of the other person, in the sun rays, in the sunrise, in the waves, in everything, in every color, in the food that we eat. There is, everything is filled and infused with the spark of the divine. And this also reminded me now of a Zen story. It's very short. When a student asked his master, he asked, "When will I reach enlightenment?" And the master replied, "When you can drink tea and only drink tea." And this is the wisdom of Taurus, actually. The art of total presence, the ability to inhabit a moment without wishing it was different. The ability to truly absorb this moment now. And Scorpio wants transcendence, while Taurus is telling us that we are already standing on that sacred ground. We are already there. And in the Buddhism, this is called suchness. This is the direct experience of reality as it is. And under this full moon, enlightenment isn't, escaping the world, but in tasting it, in touching it, in, really, really living it. And there is also another short story when a monk asked a Zen master how long it would take him to achieve enlightenment, and the master said 10 years or something like that. And the monk asked, "What if I try very hard?" And the monk said, "Then 20 years. And this is also about, Taurus can have, Taurus aspect within ourselves can have a tendency towards working really hard, because we think that if we work really hard, we can achieve things and we can deserve them. But this is not about it. It's not about forcing things, rushing things. It's not about using any force. It's really about that moment of being with it and not doing things because, we are waiting for an award, but doing things consciously. And if we've been overworking, overgiving, if we've been starving our senses, this full moon asks us to return to the body, to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to remember that pleasure is not a sin, but it's something that soul needs. It's the need of our soul. And, we can, during this time, we should really be able to speak about things that we are grateful for. And as I always say, it's very easy to be grateful for good things in life, but we should try now to be grateful for those things that we don't like, to be grateful for those things that we wish weren't here, that we wish didn't happen. Let's start being grateful for those things every day, every moment, whenever we remember, and let's see how this changes our state of being. Let's see how this changes our perspective. And, let's speak that appreciation, not only think it, let's speak it, let's use our voice. And the vibration of our voice, can ground this gratitude into form. And it's also a great time for interacting with nature and for touching things, as I said, for, getting in touch with flowers, with fruits as well. Taurus is very, very much about this. And, we can offer beauty to beauty itself. Offer beauty to beauty itself. And let's work on recognizing the beauty and true values within ourselves and within those around us. Let's give more focus onto those things. And that saying that says that you cannot live off love. Like, love is not enough. You need money to live. You cannot live off love. Well, Actually, love is very necessary for living. Money is necessary for survival, but love is for living. So everyone who tells you that you cannot live off love, tell them they're wrong. You know, love is necessary for living, while money is necessary for surviving. And you know, this, as I said, full moon is really reminding us that peace is not passive. It's not about being passive, it's about being present. And you know, under this moon we should all feel the weight of being alive, and remember that beauty is not what we discover and what we find, it's what we embody and what we become. And there is a great quote from William Blake, and William Blake is really an amazing artist, and I would say a magician in some way. And if you are interested, you can explore the art and the work of William Blake. And there's a great quote from him that says, "To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." And this quote really, really powerfully reflects the energy of this full moon in Taurus. And you know, it's also a reminder that there is nothing that we can find outside of us that is not already found within us. And we are really confronted now by opportunities for transformation, and it's a call back into our bodies. It's an invitation to remember that peace is not something we find when chaos ends. It's not about, you know, waiting for chaos to end and then I'll be in peace. You know, it's something we choose within that chaos. And Mars in Sagittarius opposing Uranus in Gemini is really a new mutable activation, new activation of that axis that is now going to be active very strongly in the next 5 years. And it's an awakening of mental freedom. It's something that is going to challenge our beliefs, our education, our history. It's going to be challenged completely. And our communication is really, really being electrified. And we should really be aware of our words during this time. Mars-Uranus opposition can add restlessness and can bring revelations, rebellion, and big, big breakthroughs through communication, through words, through knowledge, through shared information as well. So this is a divine magnetism, and you know, it's a reminder that we don't have to shout to be heard, and we should choose clarity and truth, but not at all costs. You know, not using truth as an excuse to hurt someone. And we really need to work on all levels to achieve that highest expression of us as human beings. And we learn and grow as we live. And we shouldn't really be self-critical. And the most radical act now is calm action. You know, Mars wants movement and Uranus wants awakening. And these two need to be guided by awareness, and we can expect emotional intensity, but also the possibility of profound calm once we accept what is true. And this is, you know, very, very important full moon, very important full moon. Even though we had eclipses, we had some big important full moons, but this one is very important because it activates some other subtle moments that are very important, and it shows us that we carry the whole universe within our breath. And with this, I would end this forecast, and I wish us all a very fertile, grounded, present, aware, and nourishing full moon in Taurus. ability to really taste things, to enjoy, to slow down, to experience the raging bull as well, and to experience the Ferdinand bull, and to really give our best to build something sustainable and to be self-sufficient without hurting anyone around us. And with this, I definitely end this forecast, and I love you all and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.